Dont'e Thornton out of Oregon. He's a 6'5", 200-pound wide receiver. And he lined up at Oregon in the slot at 6'5". So imagine Jalin Hyatt, but taller, same speed in Josh Heupel's offense. And that's basically what you would get out of Dont'e Thornton. His film looks amazing. And whenever he was interviewed in the airport, he said that he got along with Joey Halsley amazing. He went bowling with Josh Heupel and said he beat Josh Heupel in bowling. And he also met Joe Milton while he was here. So that's also another ripple into this. I guess Josh Heupel is trotting Joe Milton out as the starting quarterback for next season. He had 17 catches this year for 366 yards and a touchdown. I think he could be a very big help for Tennessee. And I know Calhoun is talking about it too. Any slot receiver in Tennessee's offense, I mean, you can't really mess that up.
In retrospect, will we see, and I thought this during the season, and it would have sounded like pure heresy with the numbers he put up, Jalin Hyatt, will we look back and say that he was more of a product of the system or just one of the greatest receivers to ever lace it up at Tennessee?
I really think it'll depend on what he does in the NFL because will his skill set transfer when everybody is the same athleticism as him? And it'll also depend. I mean, he was in a very, 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 very friendly slot receiver offense. So he didn't have much. Everything he caught was basically wide open when he was down the field. So he was getting schemed open. I don't know how much of that he got himself open. You'd have to really dive into that. And I think it'll depend on what he does in pro football.
Okay. Your thoughts, Calhoun?
Yeah, I'm a little more it's a little easier for me. I'm straight system guy. It reminds me of it reminds me of in the 90s, 95, Joey Kent sets the all-time single-season receiving yards record for Tennessee. He breaks his own record in 96, remains the only back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver in Tennessee football history, becomes the all-time careers leader. Marcus Nash, the year after that, breaks Joey Kent's records from 96 and 95. Guys, what was a common thread from 95 to 97?
I don't know. Who was it? Was it Eli? I can't remember.
This guy named Peyton Manning was throwing the ball during that time. None of them became anything in the NFL. After Peyton Manning leaves, Peerless Price becomes the number one receiver. Doesn't come close to putting up the numbers Nash or Kent had, and he has the best career in the NFL of all three of them. He was the better receiver. He just was never the number one receiver when Peyton Manning was throwing him the ball.
When we really look at this roster, and this sounds bizarre in this system, and I do think they can get people open, even if it's Jarreau out there running routes. But there's some questions about depth, isn't there, at receiver, which is something you don't want to hear, especially Jarreau mentioned Tillman. If something like that were to happen, who are Tennessee's top three receivers? Calhoun, that would be a bit of a question. It wasn't a question last year. You would immediately turn to Keaton or Squirrel White. We kind of knew going into the year. I don't think we know right now who that would be.
Maybe in the slot, because you're right. Everybody in the slot transferred out because they knew they weren't going to beat out Squirrel White. But honestly, with wideout, I mean, we're forgetting there are some young wideouts that, I mean, Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb, I mean, they're going to be, I think they're going to be starting in 2 years. So it's like, I don't know. It's such a plug and play system, the Heupel system with receivers. And so I don't, as long as they got enough speed and size, I don't think you have to be that good to rack up a lot of yards as a receiver in Heupel system.
No, I can see that. I think that the thing that made Jalin Hyatt so special is he was so incredibly fast. He probably, as an overall talent, is third in Tennessee's team last year. I know Brew McCoy is the best talent from all the coaches that I've talked to and some scouts as well. I really believe that Cedric Tillman's second. We didn't see the development of him, and I wonder how it's kind of odd how he fit into this offense or didn't fit into this offense. So I wonder if there, I don't know, maybe issues with teamsmanship. But Jalin Hyatt, as far as a talent headed into the NFL, guys, he's third best on this team last year. And so Jalin Hyatt was able to maximize his production because of his speed. I think the question you have to ask yourself, can Squirrel White do the same thing based off his shiftiness? Maybe as fast, but I don't think so. But Squirrel White, I think, is going to have a great year. Assuming these guys are healthy, those are your three. And then you have Jacob Warren coming back as the tight end. I think you're in great shape. But after that, I kind of wonder who is the next guy to step up. The other thing you have to keep in mind, Calhoun, is his team has apparently, based on all of last season, bought in. So I don't think you're going to have to wait for a guy to come along like you did Jalin Hyatt, who was a no-show in 2021.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think they all have balled in. Anybody that's transferred is definitely going to be somebody who's balled in too. So I think they're, and again, Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod committed after the 2021 season, so they had enough evidence to buy in. So yeah, I think Tennessee's going to be fine no matter what. Heupel showed at Missouri, if he has to, he'll use two tight ends and you make his tight end his go-to target.
I want to pose a question. So you talk about having Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, and Brew McCoy as your three next season. So if you're Thornton, he visited Miami, which Mario Cristobal recruited him to Oregon. Now he's trying to recruit him to Miami. And then he visited Auburn and Arkansas as well. So if you're Thornton and you're looking for a place where you're a day one starter, does having those three receivers at Tennessee deter you from thinking about Knoxville as much?
Let me play pro and con if I'm in his head. Pro, they showed that they could plug somebody in quickly when Tillman went down, and they were able to get a Ramel Keaton out there and making plays. Con, yes, I would look at this and I would wonder, am I going to start over McCoy or Keaton because they have a head start? Calhoun, thoughts? Or are you looking for that Missouri tight end?
Sorry, I was looking straight for. I was knee deep looking for the Missouri tight end. Okay, so you were talking about the issues with Dont'e Thornton and the concept of depth, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's something for him to worry about. I think that, more than anything, that there might come a time where I don't think we're there yet. I think there might come a time 2 or 3 years down the road where the draft stock of Tennessee receivers start to fall when people start seeing that everybody who plays at Tennessee is picking up those yards. Didn't that happen with Florida quarterbacks under Spurrier? Didn't eventually NFL scouts be like, oh my gosh, they're just all putting up these yards, so let's just stop wasting top first round picks on them because doing it under Spurrier doesn't mean anything.
No, I think that was the case. I think scouting, the money's so big now that I think scouting's better. I don't even think it takes a learning curve nowadays. I think they see you and your shiftiness or lack thereof and what you're able to do in the combine and all of that. And if you're wide open, I go back to the Danny Werfel thing in the 90s. I mean, the guy was throwing balls to wide open dudes. And that doesn't mean that he should be an NFL player. I would say the same thing about Tim Tebow to a lesser extent.